work somehow. Okay,
Okay.
got it. Okay,
Yeah.
starting.
Excellent.
Okay, we are live. Welcome everyone to the security team meeting. This is the 1st of February 2024. All right, so let's start from usual announcement, if there is any announcement. Okay, no announcements, then we can start from the usual vulnerability review. And paste the issue in chat. Rafael is not here today, so usually it's the one who takes care of it. So I think there are a few vulnerabilities on OpenSSL mostly that we are updating. I think the update already went through.
Yeah, like if looking at the vulnerability assessment, I did notice there were a few new ones. But they're all tagged with waiting on OpenSSL because they were like low severity. OpenSSL was like, hey, we're not even going to issue a release. They did put a release out, and yeah, you're right that's in flight, I think, right?
Okay, so there is no action to take other than update it as soon as there is a new version.
Yeah, exactly. The ones that are tagged waiting, like I tagged one set, and I think maybe Raphael tagged the other set, but like there's ones where it's like, yeah, they made an announce, but they said we're not doing a release because they're low. So we just tagged them this way to say, like, we're just waiting. As soon as OpenSSL does a release, we'll do a release in our regular releases as well.
Okay, so nothing else to add on this point. We can move forward. So OpenSSL scorecard monitor review, Ulysses, something you wanna show us?
I run the script this morning. There are no major differences, more related to what we expected from the previews, in terms of increasing code reviews and so on. So I think nothing relevant. So I included the links to the issue and the pull request, but yeah, so far no actions from our side.
Okay. So is there something to merge?
Yeah, we can merge the pull request 2221. I will put that in the chat because I think I don't even approve it, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah. So yeah, if we can approve it and then we go merge with it, that will also close the issue. So yeah, I will just merge it. Okay, so that's all for the scorecard.
Okay, so moving on, we have security initiative in December 23 fuzzing. So anyone has an update on this?
Yeah, I do. I don't know if sorry, is my sound okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, so I don't know if Amir is in the meeting as well, Amir Montessori. But yeah, we have been working with Amir's team from OSTIF to do the security initiative in December and first half of January, which focused on fuzzing and some other parts as well. And there are a couple of outputs from this initiative. One is a bunch of fuzzers for Node.js that we are currently, so they are running continuously through a project called OSSFuzz run by Google. And we have, so Node.js has been integrated into OSSFuzz with a single or two fuzzers for about 2 years. We did that initially as well, and this time with Amir's team, we have written a bunch of fuzzers, I think close to 50, and they are running continuously, and they are so they are tests that would be great to get upstreamed into Node.js. For info, Node.js already has its current fuzzer in its upstream repo. So and it's quite well integrated into the build system actually. So it shouldn't be too intrusive. And I think looking forward, we'll find a way to get those upstreamed. There is the question of the quantity, since we have almost 50 fossors, and I think so far we add an entry into the GIP file for each fossor, which might bloat it. It might add more than 1,000 lines into the GIP file. So yeah, I think for those interested, I think the fossors are hosted in node.js main repo /tests/fossors or fossing, and we would propose to just put them there as well. The second output is so we have written a report about the work, and this includes some other findings, some findings by the fossors, I think mainly in third-party dependencies, and some other findings as well. And we have set up a private channel with Raphael over the last week, and shared the reports there. But I think it would be great to get more eyes on those reports. I say reports, but there's a Node.js report, and there's a report for another project, Fastify. But talking about the Node.js audit report, would be great to get some more eyes on that if possible. So yeah, I think that's it from my side.
I have a few questions on that. One would be like, is there any is this thing sensitive enough that we couldn't publish them publicly? Or like, the answer might be yes, but that's how we usually get lots of more eyes on things, is like if it's in our repos, people can see them. So it's how close can we come to that? Or is it that, like, I don't know, just sort of thinking aloud, like, how do we best share this stuff versus like an email to one person, right? Like, ideally any collaborator or whatever level of group of people we trust could just go and look, right? Versus having to say like, yeah, let's email it to you or whatever. I don't know if there's like some existing best practice in other projects. Like, how would they handle that?
So if I may add real quick before anyone else jumps in, yeah, I mean we're definitely not in favor of email or Slack or anything. So I echo your request, like what could be the best way to share this. I do think there are a few findings in there that we probably shouldn't just share publicly immediately. So I think we would hesitate a little bit with that. They're focused, they're supply chain issues and not code level issues. So I think Node.js has a HackerOne program for code level issues,
Right.
and I don't know if supply chain issues fit in there, because we can't really point to a code part in Node.js.
I think that's actually a good idea. I think, like, I don't know how many there are, but if there's like 3 or 4, I personally think that, like, let's just report them there, and that's a good way to get started. And if people complain, we can say, well, like, if nowhere else, where else would we do it, right?
Cool.
So I think that would be a good that seems like a good idea, unless anybody else thinks there's a better one.
Yeah, no, I think HackerOne is the right place to report any direct vulnerability. Maybe like if it's all supply chain related, maybe open just one report instead of opening like everything for everyone for each supply chain issue.
Yeah. The next thing I thought was kind of interesting was like you said mostly in dependencies. And that's interesting to me because, like, say for our dependencies, when we do static analysis, we pretty much ignore reports in the dependencies because, like, we have limited control actioning, like, ability to action those. So like our static reports, we have a list, but we filter that list down to, like, here's the ones in Node which we can then go and attack and deal with. I think, like, for dependencies, it'll be an interesting thing in terms of like supply chain. It'll be interesting to think about that similarly. What's the right approach? Is it that, I don't know. We can look at the ones that you've got and sort of that make us think, but like I could see a world where it's just like, well, the only thing we can really do is report them to the dependency. Now, obviously, if there's something that's like so worrying, maybe there's something more that needs to happen, but like, I'll be interested to see where, like, based on those, where they fall into. It's kind of like, yeah, it's an issue, but like, all we can do is really let them know and ask versus trying to do something ourselves. Or maybe it's not that. Maybe it's like, it's how we use the dependencies or package the dependencies. I don't know. We were just talking about that actually in a meeting before this one. So there's work to improve on that front. So maybe they fall into that category. I don't know.
Yeah, I can say it's both as far as I can recall. But I think it's a great suggestion to just get them up in HackerOne and then take it from there. And by the way, if you say this is not Node's problem, that's we are fine with that. We're not forcing that it is a problem for Node.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it'll just be interesting because I think it would be good for us as a project to try and set some like guidance. If somebody says, "Hey, I see this problem," it's like we should understand. It's like, yeah, we've decided that that's the class of things we'll jump in and look at, or no, we'll just pass them on or whatever. But this will give us some good examples to maybe figure that out.
Yeah, I like that approach very much. Yeah, sounds excellent. You also mentioned publishing the results. It would be great to publish the report, perhaps in a coordinated manner, with also the OSTIF team. So the OSTIF team has facilitated this and made it happen with the funding and all this kind of stuff.
Yep.
So it would be great to publish it in a coordinated manner. Also to promote the funding that the security work for open source work gets.
Absolutely. I think that the more we talk about it, the more it seems like getting it into HackerOne makes a lot of sense because that's how we deal with things. And I know when they were talking about like a full audit, I'm like, as long as no deadline comes with that, right? Because the last thing an open source project needs is like, hey, we're going to publish this in 90 days or else, because volunteers, it's not necessarily easy to line up. We don't pay people, so we can't tell them what to do, right? But I totally agree that once we agree that we're ready, we'd like to support, people who are funding good work and stuff like that. So I think doing some sort of, we generally, like HackerOne, we try and make those things public. So once we've completed, we got any fixes, we'll publish them. But I think in this case, we'd probably be better to coordinate, like you said, a pre-publish that's more of an official blog or something in advance of that.
Yeah, that sounds great. Yeah, we'll get it submitted to HackerOne, and take it from there.
Okay.
And I think anybody here, like Ulysses, I'm not sure if you have access to HackerOne.
I don't have access to HackerOne currently. I mean, at least to the organization. I have my account, but not to the organization.
Right. I think we can add people specifically to, specific issues.
Yes.
So I think like, if you're interested, I think we could go and say like, hey, we'd like to add you because like this has been something that, it's the security working group has been the ones that have been talking to Adam and other people. And so we'd like you to be able to see the results of that. So if you're interested, just say yes, and I'll make that ask. Or if you don't, that's okay too.
Yeah. Additionally, we'll love to be part
Okay.
if possible also.
Then I'll make the ask and say,
okay.
I think we should be able to.
All right. So
go ahead. And Prabhu, are you? I'm sorry if I should know that you and Adam are and you already have access, or is that not the case?
Not the case, but I'm happy to take a look. I'm not sure how much I can contribute initially, but I will be a silent observer and then.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so I will just write down that you gave us some update, found some issue in the project, and we'll report privately. All right.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay, we can move on to the next issue, which is Node.js code integrity on Windows. I don't think there is anyone today to talk about that from the Microsoft folks that came last time. So I will just skip this one if nobody has to add anything about it. Okay. Next point is audit build process for dependencies. We just had a deep dive session 1 hour ago. So there is an update from Michael on it. I will link it in the chat, and I will just sum it up for everybody else. Here it is, the link. So we started to we went through the JavaScript dependencies, specifically those who have a build step and also the one that contain WebAssembly, and we are looking for a way to improve the reproducibility of those dependencies, and like one of the ideas was to fork them and keep a version inside the Node.js organization, and we will continue on this discussion and going through the dependencies. So Michael, maybe you want to add something for people watching us?
Not too much. I think maybe I'll just add the one thing I thought was really interesting is that, we were looking at some of the dependencies, and for some of them we have copies in our own GitHub repo, and in some we don't. And so it's like that's something we might want to say is like for code we're pulling in, maybe we should have a copy of all of that in our repository. So lots more to continue to think about and talk about, but I think it was a really good first discussion based on the work that Marco did to kind of understand what's going on in those NPM dependencies. And we're gonna have another meeting 2 weeks from now. So if you're interested in that, we'll be carrying on the conversation.
Okay. Think we can move on to the next point, which
I just want to add a point here. I know
sure.
we are jumping the gun. So I shared a link to what is called as formulation, part of Cyclone.dx. So the general idea behind formulation is to describe how the components are built, like this neat comment that you have captured in GitHub. We can basically codify that and make it machine readable, and roll it out as part of the SBOM itself, so that tools can be built to read the formulation section and then reproduce the build in an automated fashion. So I thought I'll share the link.
Interesting on that front. Like we have some updater scripts that Marco wrote. Would pointing to those scripts be one of the things that might go in there?
I have to take a look. I think it's yeah.
Because we like, a bunch of the work that Marco did over the last year that was really good is we used to do like manual updates. Somebody would say like, okay, we've got this dep, we do, and now there's a script instead that runs and says, oh, there's a change in, we have under the node org, there is this thing called the CGS module Lexer, right? It would say like, hey, somebody published a new version. Okay, I'm going to take the content, and if there's a build step, it'll do the build step, and then it'll copy the output into the dep in Node. Similarly, if there's no build step, it just copies the things in. But like that is one thing which documents how it gets put into like our directories, right?
Absolutely. So we have a concept of workflows and task types under formulation. So all these manual activities we can then codify and express in a machine readable fashion. That way we then encourage automation over manual steps and so on. And where we find, for example, something is inadequate in the specification, we can definitely improve the specification also. Like if there is a step or a workflow that cannot be expressed in Cyclone.dx format, yes, we can update the spec.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, I think this is connected to the SBOM point. I will keep it at last because probably it's going to be the juiciest. So we have initiative for CI best practices for the Node projects. Ulysses, maybe there is something you want to share on this one?
Yeah, I think more or less there was not a lot of activity. So my suggestion here will be to maybe have a look together on the next session and do a little bit of a deep dive, like 20 minutes, and see if we can start to close some of these initiatives for us, or start removing some of them. Or remove all the topic from the agenda and start adding just a specific requirements so we can focus a little bit more, because I think it's very open now, and it can be that many people are not engaging a lot. So I think that way we can generate more engagement.
So was the silver badge published?
There is
the
an
website?
issue. There is an issue ongoing because we have some problems. We try to transfer the ownership of the project in their website, and we didn't manage. So eventually we end up not being able to update it or transfer it. So we kind of in the middle. So we fulfilled partially the silver the first time we finalized with the pull request, but they were missing some URLs or something like that, like in the justifications for the responses. We did a separated pull request for that. So that should be, I think, Rod did the update already on that, and then it's when we lost the access definitely with that update somehow. So yeah, we are working with them on recovering the access, and that way we can solve. And also we will know if we actually should be working on the gold level or not, because we still have some requirements for the silver. So that's a tricky part. But yeah, anyway, let's start working on the gold. It was a good move, I think, in terms of a team agreement also, because we have a lot of requirements there, and even if we don't complete them, will be a good move. So yeah, I hope that eventually that got solved. So worst case scenario, I can try to ping the OpenSSF directly, because they have access to the chat, and see if we can move a little bit the issue.
So
All
in
right.
terms of like getting access to be able to update and configure these things, do you have a contact that we're talking to, or like it's getting to the point where it's been a long time, and I'm not worried because I know Rod, right? Like, but
yeah,
there's now somebody who's no longer a collaborator in the project who can access and update that.
yeah,
And we can't get it converted to somebody who's active in the project. Like that seems like a problem, right?
Yeah, it was a little bit tricky because that was a really not expected bug. So I think we have an open issue probably in the repository. So I need to find which one, or maybe it was a private discussion. But yeah, definitely there is. I think it's David from the OpenSF working on that. So
sorry, can you give me more context on this one? Because I don't think I have context on this part.
So yeah, let me see. So basically, we published the. So you have these CI best practices. Let me find the website. So you have the best practices dev basically, and you have the project listed there. So if you go for the node.js, let me search for the link. 1 second. Okay, 1 second. Looking for the Node.js project. Yeah, here it is. So we are the project 1520 here. So basically, this is like the best practices.dev website. So that's the place where we supposed to fulfill the form. So in a state of fulfill the form directly there, we do it in the Markdown because it's easier for us to discuss. And then the idea is to make the update. So when we started to work on it, we assumed that we didn't have any project, or Node.js was not submitted there, but surprisingly, Rod did that in the past. So the idea was to ask Rod if he can, transfer the ownership of the account to, I don't know, something more groupal, like the build team or, TC members or something like that. So many people can access from that, because as far as I remember, or at that time, only one person can own one project. So it was easier to have, like a group email. So we started to discuss with them on that transfer, and we didn't complete that because we started to enter some technical bugs in their backend for this application. So also this is the same application that actually generates the batch images and update the database accordingly. So basically that's why which I'm kind of in the middle. So I think we're in the status of waiting for them to solve that in order to actually fulfill the forms again and see if we achieve the silver or not. So
Thank you. That's great to hear. Okay. I think the last point is a permission model. Usually Rafael takes care of it. If anyone wants to add something on it? No? Okay. So I think we can jump to the SBOM discussion. So like we removed it from the agenda because we wanted to take time to make a decision. I had a few chats with people from the OpenJS collaboration space, the security collaboration space. So my proposal is to take an official stance that we would like to generate SBOM in the CycloneDX format, because I think it's the easier for us in terms of tooling to get started. And now that it's also being standardized in TC54 and also ISO standardization, it means that it's kind of complete in terms of standards, and also being much easier to use than the available tools for SPDX allows us, that we are not all security engineers per se, to work with the SBOM generation workflow. So like I would like this team to take a decision, and if we all agree, I will update the issue stating that we will start by generating an SBOM in the CycloneDX format, keep it private. So we probably need to create a repository to keep those SBOM private, because there's no point in having the public at the beginning, especially since we will play with them. So I think that's the plan. Start simple from the dependencies that that are the easiest, and then for dependencies that are like V8 on OpenSSL, basically just say the provenance of the package and add a few details instead of doing static analysis over them. So this is my proposal.
I think to go ahead.
No, go ahead. Just wanted to
I was gonna
hear
say
your
that
opinion.
that sounds good to me. Totally +1. The only thing I think we could add is like if somebody else loves some other format and wants to come and do work to implement an SBOM in that format, we're not going to say no. But like,
Yes.
So this is if you looked at it and said this is the easiest way to go forward, and you're willing to do some work on it, I think we should just say yes.
Yeah, I think it's the easiest way, and also I don't know, Prabhu, if you wanna add something, since you are one of the like you maintain one of the main tools for CycloneDX generation.
Definitely, Marco. I think it's such a privilege to represent the CycloneDX team here today in this meeting. And like Marco said, I am the author and leader of CycloneDX generator project called CDXGen. CDXGen is a node project, node module available on NPM. And the idea behind CDXGen is to make it easy to generate CycloneDX documents for any repos. And I've been working with Marco since sometime last year to repeatedly test against Node. And initially, we had a lot of performance issues, functional bugs. So we've been constantly improving the tool. We recently released version 10, which is targeting Node 20 onwards. So it's a lot more performant, especially with Node 21X. It's actually even more performant. We fixed a number of bugs, and I think some of the things we do is we're trying to make it easy to generate an SBOM, which means the format becomes independent. Once the information are available in a machine readable format in the node repo itself, I think then generating it, that information in CycloneDX or SPDX or any format is a much easier task. And I'm really glad that we are going to start with CycloneDX, which is awesome. So if I can share a couple of observation or kind of what is left to make the SBOM generatable. All the node dependencies are absolutely fine, right? We have the log file, we have everything. So we are able to include node dependencies in an SBOM easily. But when it comes to V8 and Python dependencies, that's where what we have to do is, like Parko said, we need some way of capturing the provenance and version and all the details. So I did some investigation and found that VC package format from Microsoft is becoming like the de facto standard for C++ projects. Okay, it's like how we have package.json. It is VC package.json. We can create this JSON file even if you're not interested in publishing it in VC package manager ecosystem, right? It's just a JSON file, and in this JSON file we can clearly describe the URL. For example, if we vendor OpenSSL a particular version, we can say this is the version, this is the URL, and we can also add some metadata about the customization that was performed and so on. So all these become machine readable. And because CDXGen supports VC package.json, it doesn't have to do any static analysis or anything complex to basically include the C++ dependencies. Okay. Any questions so far?
I'm trying to understand, is this like we would have a VC package for Node, which would then list like V8 as a dependency, or is it more that like we'd be asking the V8 team to, like, are there sub packages within V8, or yeah, which level is kind of like, are we going to have one that just lists V8 as a single thing, or are we looking to get like V8 to have their own V package thing with a bunch of stuff in it? I don't know if they even have any sub things, but that's my question.
Right. They don't have it. So easiest is
Okay.
for us to actually own it, and it'll be one file per folder. So there'll be V8 VC package.json, OpenSSL VC package.json.
What would be in like, because I'm thinking like a regular package JSON, it says like, okay, well, this project actually includes blah, 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 and blah, right? Like a bunch of things. What would those equivalents be in V8? Like
Very similar. Like I've shared the link to the fields. We just have to describe, for example, homepage, name, version, and so on.
okay. But that's where I'm almost thinking, shouldn't that be not one file per dependency, but in our depths directory, we should have one file which has an entry for every one of the dependencies that's in C.
Okay, I may have to check whether this format supports one file for all the dependencies. But I think this will be the approach I would recommend. We look into.
I think maybe I'm just getting like, I'm thinking of like when you said it's like the package JSON, like that basically is there's a whole bunch of entries, right? So, but if it's not quite that, then yeah, maybe it makes sense to be in a single one. But if it's there, I guess we could create one, but it might even make sense to like eventually ask our dependency. Anyway, we can't probably control what they're going to do. So yeah, creating our own would make sense to start.
I would like to just clarify the scope of the SBOM. So I think initially the SBOM would be used by us to assess, like as an inventory, keep track of what we are using and what we have. Therefore, I think it would be best to keep it privately. So I would say to create a private repository and probably create a CLI tool like in the Node Core utils that does the like starts the SBOM generation and go and uploads the file into the private repository, so only people who are authorized, and also a GitHub action can possibly do this. But I think that's the like second level of automation. Once we first have we can manually generate SBOM, then we can automate the generation. So like we just need to start from the simplest stuff, private, and we won't claim that we have an SBOM until we are like certain that what we have is reliable. So I think this is the scope of like how to start, and we will see how it goes and move forward. So for this reason, I don't think we should add files inside the main repository for now.
The concern is not that it's private or anything. Just the concern is it'll be incomplete, right? So we don't want people. That makes sense to me. We don't want people to rely on it until we think it's a real thing.
That's right. We can do level of iteration, make sure it is of sufficient good quality.
I don't think it needs to be a private repo though, right? Like maybe we could create another repo which is like SBOM experiment or experimental or something, like name that other repo in a way that it's clear this isn't real. And then it can be, you know, still be public to everybody. I don't know, Marco, if that makes sense to you. No, I think maybe he's got a, oh, I see a yes, so, okay. So, but yeah, I think, you know, making sure it's, but still having anybody who can see it, because it's always good to have things that widely get comments from as many people as we can along the way. So.
Yep.
If I don't know, I know you can work with Marco on this, but like there's a process just to say like, hey, we want to create this new repo by creating an issue in the admin repo. And so if it's at that point in time, just go ahead, and it takes a few days to get the okay to do that.
Yep, sounds good.
The interesting thing I see in the V package thing that you mentioned is the platform, right? Which I don't know how that quite maps to what we have in our dependencies, right? Like our dependencies are generally platform independent, but
correct. I think, these have many C++ specific fields, but I think many of them are optional, so we can start with the basic and keep.
Yeah, okay. It's just like, it's sort of like x86, it's like, there's C source code, so it's basically any of yes to all of these, right? But once we build and ship something, then it gets more specific. So anyway.
That's right, after the build and so on.
Yeah, I guess for the use case that we have, the initial use case, it doesn't really matter at the beginning, because we are not doing the SBOM based on the binary that we are releasing. So firstly, we do it for ourselves. So I don't know if there is a way to automate, for example, if there is a vulnerability on one of the tools that we have in our SBOM to receive that update immediately, like this kind of as a vulnerability, like connected to a vulnerability database, for example. This is something might be interesting to like to check.
Definitely.
Yeah. So okay. So I will update the issue saying that we are okay to proceed and start with create a plan and see and start from there. Okay. So this was the last point. Is there anything else? All right. So I guess that was it for today. I will give you 15 minutes back, everyone. So see you at the next meeting.